If you keep going on dates with people and they keep giving you the line that they don't feel a spark, or they don't feel enough chemistry to continue with you, or they just don't feel excited to continue with you, is it you or is it the people that you're choosing? And what even is this thing called the spark? Or what are people talking about when they're saying, I don't feel enough chemistry? Is this even something that you can shift? So today I'm answering this question from one of my Facebook group members, and it's a question that gets asked a lot of different ways, so I'm breaking it down here today for you guys. But also, if you want to join my Facebook group and post your own questions and get support from me and from other women in the group, the link is in the description of this video here. So I'm going to read through the question first, and then I'm going to give you my answer to this question. So this group member writes, I have found myself in a frustrating and repeating relationship pattern which I need help breaking. Over the last several years, I have dated a number of guys who, after a month or two of dating, told me they weren't interested, either citing unreadiness or a lack of spark, chemistry, or excitement. As a result, I've worked hard to do my due diligence on avoiding unavailable men, bad boys, those avoidant of commitment, etc. Most recently, I met a man who, for the first time in my life, I could really see myself with long term. He was kind, mature, thoughtful, and attentive throughout, and we communicated very openly and well about everything, or so I thought. He seemed available and ready. He even visited me long distance from another country to see me at one point. A week after a discussion where he said he wanted to continue seeing one another and making plans for our next dates, he phoned me to end things, saying he'd never had feelings for me. He had hoped they might develop, but they didn't. Like all the others, he cited lack of spark, chemistry, saying he just didn't feel excited enough or compelled to contact me, despite the fact that he was initiating lots of daily contact throughout. This was counter to the things he'd said while we were dating. I felt as though we were on exactly the same page. To me, it seemed like a total 180 and has been the biggest disappointment yet. I can't work out what I'm missing and why this pattern keeps repeating. I realize I'm not going to be for everyone, but to keep being given the same reason is extremely disheartening and has made me feel like I'm lacking in some way. What have I missed here? Is there something I need to work on? Am I choosing incorrectly? I don't want to go through this exact same pattern again, as there have been too many times now. So, to the woman who asked this question, I am so sorry that this has been your experience. It's extremely frustrating, and I've had similar experiences in the past, and so I'm going to share some of my experience here today. I'm going to talk about what you could do to start to shift this experience. So, to just answer your question here, is there something that you're lacking? No, you're not lacking anything. You have everything that you need within you. Is there something that you can shift here to have a different outcome? Possibly. We're going to talk about that. There could possibly be something that you can do differently here, but I want you to go in it with the frame of mind that you're just making an adjustment. So you're not blaming yourself here. You're not saying there's something wrong with you. You're not saying there's something lacking. There's just maybe something that you can tweak. So this question of a spark, of chemistry, my partner and I have actually talked a lot about this because I'm just super interested in this topic, and so is he. And we've really dug into our own past experiences with feeling the spark, feeling the chemistry for other people, but then also being on the receiving end of other people feeling a spark or feeling a chemistry with us. And we kind of like broke it down and figured out, okay, what's actually going on here? And so I'm going to share with you some of our discoveries that we've realized around chemistry, around the spark. And I'm going to start this discussion by sharing my own experiences with dating, because I first started dating when I was in high school and a little bit in college, and then I got married. And then I went back out into the dating world when I was in my mid-30s. So we're talking just a couple years ago here. And I had a really different experience dating in my younger years versus dating when I was older. Times had changed. Yes, things were very different, but there were some really critical differences that I'm going to tell you about here today in how I was showing up. So years ago, when I was in college and I was dating, I wasn't that successful in dating. Now, granted, I wasn't really trying very hard, but I was interested in people and people were asking me out sometimes. A lot of times people didn't ask me out, and there were certain reasons that I'm going to tell you about here. But when people did ask me out, sometimes they did want to date me and they kept coming back, but a lot of times that didn't happen. Guys just kind of faded away, and I didn't really understand why. I just thought, okay, well, everyone's not for me, and I just kept moving. I just continued to live my life and didn't think too much about it. At the time, I was actually very emotionally unavailable. So keep that in mind here. That's something important. So back in college, or a little bit after college, I did a lot of dating on and off there. I would go out with people, and we would go on a date, a couple dates, sometimes a little bit more than that, and not really much happened. Again, the guys would kind of fade away. They wouldn't call me back. They would say they weren't interested. And again, I just thought, okay, no big deal. Wasn't that upset by it. Just continued to live my life. But then when I went back out into the dating world in my mid-30s, I actually had a completely different experience. Every single date that I went on at this time, the men wanted to see me again. A lot. Some of them even didn't want to take no for an answer. And it really struck me. I was having such a different dating experience. I was having way more success. I was having way more people want to keep engaging with me. And it really made me think, like, what's the difference here? I'm the exact same person. I look the same, I have the same level of attractiveness, we could say. What is the difference? And what I realized the big difference was that I was way more open in my mid-30s. I was showing up completely differently. I was way more emotionally available than I was in the past. Not fully emotionally available, but so much more than I was in my younger years. I was way more open. I was way more interested in people. And I was a lot more engaging than I had been in the past. And so my dating experience was totally different. And so because of how I was showing up, the men that I was dating were feeling that spark with me. They were feeling that chemistry. They were excited to see me again. And so in talking to my partner about this, because he's kind of the same way, that's why we connected, we realized that, well, a lot of the time, sparks or chemistry, it can be this intangible feeling that you feel if you have certain traumas. And I talk about this in a lot of my other videos, what's going on with that instant chemistry, that spark that we feel a lot of times. But also, there's a lot of other times when we can actually break down what the spark is and what chemistry is. And it comes down to certain characteristics that people have or don't when it comes to connecting with others. There are actually some traits that you can cultivate to make you more, let's say, sparky. I'm going to use that word, to put you in a place to be more, we could say, engaging, more interesting, and really help people to feel more connected to you. So they do feel that chemistry. So they do feel like they want to continue to see you again and get to know you. Now, I'm not talking about faking anything here. I'm not talking about putting on an act. What I'm talking about is making some simple shifts that can help you to show up more authentically as yourself. And I'm talking about making a couple simple shifts so that you can improve the success that you're having when you go out there and date. So how do we do this? What can we do to help generate that spark or that chemistry feeling that people are looking for? And right or wrong, I have a lot to say about looking for spark and chemistry. I don't necessarily think it's the best thing to look for when it comes to a healthy relationship, but a lot of people are looking for that. A lot of men in particular. A lot of men don't know that that's actually not the most reliable thing you want to go for. But I'm going to give you this advice anyway, because again, even if you're with a healthy partner who isn't necessarily looking for that spark or that chemistry, that excitement, it's still going to help you to pull them in, and show off the best of yourself. So I went back and I remembered what I was doing differently when I was older that helped me to have that much better experience when I was out there dating versus when I was younger and just not getting that much interest. So I'm gonna break it down here for you guys. So the most important thing that I did to have that different dating experience was to heal my wounds from the past. So before I did a lot of healing, when I was younger, I was actually very quiet. And I really wasn't that interested in people. If I was very honest with myself, I wasn't that interested in getting to know other people. I was insecure about certain things, so I didn't share a lot about myself. And so I am almost positive that I was coming across very shut down. Kind of flat, you could say. Like I actually wasn't very in touch with my emotions at that time, and so you wouldn't have found me to be very engaging. I was kind of just, again, flat. Like I could talk to you and be a little bit excited, but there wasn't much openness. There wasn't much happening for me at that time. And when you're around someone like that, it's just not that exciting. It's kind of dull. And again, if you are relating to this, if this is how you are now or how you've been in the past, no judgment for me. Again, this is me. I was there. And so I'm just sharing these things to give you the perspective on how you might be appearing to people so that you can shift it and have a better outcome when it comes to dating. So when I showed up on these dates when I was younger, I was just kind of there. Like I wasn't asking any interesting questions. I wasn't sharing a lot about myself. I didn't have that many interesting things going on. So I was just kind of not that fun, to be honest. And this wasn't because there was anything lacking in me or there was something wrong with me. It was because I was carrying around so much stuff from my past, so many subconscious blocks, so many emotional wounds that I hadn't addressed at all. And it was making me very heavy. Like if you guys have had this experience or you have had a lot of baggage or you currently have it now, you can probably relate. You just feel heavy. And that was showing up in my dating experience. So all of these wounds were affecting how I was showing up on these dates and how I was being perceived by the world. And once I did the healing work, once I released all of that stuff, all of that subconscious stuff, I showed up so much better. I was a lot lighter. I was more open. I was more engaging. I was more interested in people. And that resulted in men also being more interested in me. So if you're ready to be more open and more emotionally available and to increase your confidence and self-love, which in turn makes you way more Sparky, as we could say, check out my Living Free Finding Love program. The link to the the link to the details are going to be here in the description. This is the work that will open your heart up to love and to connection and to that chemistry that people are looking to feel. When my clients go through this program, we release all of these specific subconscious blocks that are keeping them in that place of feeling kind of heavy and kind of just, you're there, you're not having a lot of a connection with people. We release all of that subconscious stuff, and that's what opens you up to love. That's what creates that spark and that excitement for people to keep seeing you, to keep getting to know you. I have a lot of clients who have found healthy love after not having it for many, many years. So again, if you're interested, click on the link in the description. So the second thing that I did differently in my later dating years was I was interested. Not interesting, but I showed up very interested in the other person and what they had to tell me. So when I was on dates, I asked them questions about themselves. Not just to ask the questions, but because I was genuinely interested. And so when they shared something with me, I wasn't just like how I was in the past, where I was like, oh, cool. that one was kind of not like, you're not going to find that one very engaging. But when they shared something about themselves, I really was interested and I expressed that. I would say something like, wow, that's so interesting. What did you like about that? Or I asked a follow-up question so they could share more about it and we could start to have a connection. And I did specific behaviors. Like I leaned in when someone was sharing something with me, when I was truly interested. All of this advice is only when you're really feeling the connection with someone or you're really liking someone. Don't do this if you're not interested in somebody. Again, we don't want to put on an act here because people can feel when you're acting, and that's actually a big turnoff. So you don't want to do that. Only when you're actually really feeling it and you're enjoying the conversation. So they would be talking to me, they would be telling me about themselves, and I would be interested. I would be asking them questions, and then I would share my own perspective on something they shared. Like I would make a connection, like, oh yeah, I had a similar experience, and I would share about myself. Because people will feel chemistry, they'll feel a spark, they'll feel a connection when they feel like you're interested in them. They also feel chemistry and a connection when they feel like you get them. So again, don't fake it here, but if you're really feeling them, if you're really getting them, then don't hold back. Share that, express that. Again, you can say something like, wow, that's so interesting. I had the same thing happen to me when I was younger, or whatever you want to say about that. Don't hold back. Put yourself out there and share what you're feeling. So this goes into the next thing that I did, which was I was pretty open about how I was feeling when I was dating when I was older. So if you're having a good time, if you're enjoying yourself, say so. Say something like, wow, this is a really fun time, or like, that was awesome. Like, let's do this again sometime. Express that you're enjoying this person, you like them, and that you want to see them again. Again, if you are feeling like you really like this person, say so. It doesn't have to be this huge confession of feelings, but just, hey, I really like you. This is fun. Just something simple like that, that shows that two things. You like this person, you have some interest in them, and you're emotionally available. Emotionally available people will tell you how they feel. And so this is your chance to generate some of that chemistry, to generate some of those feelings. Like when you tell someone that you like them, that feels pretty good, right? For most people. For available people, that'll feel awesome. And so that again starts to generate some of that chemistry and some of those sparks. So the last thing that I did here that was different from my early dating experiences when I was having a lot more success was I showed up with a positive frame of mind, and I was willing to have deep conversations. So when I was back out there, again in the dating world in my mid-30s, I was not totally over my exes, but I was in this state of mind like, okay, I'm ready to meet new people. I want to have a good time. And so I showed up with that energy. I was ready to just have fun and see where something went. So when I was out there dating, I always seemed like I was having a good time because I was. Like, even if I wasn't that interested in this person or I wasn't feeling the connection, I was still enjoying myself, and it showed. I acted like I was having a good time because I was. So again, we don't want to act, we don't want to put on a show here, but if you show up with the perspective that like, okay, I'm gonna go out on this date, I'm gonna have a good time, I don't know if we'll have a connection or not, but this is a chance for me to get out and meet new people and just enjoy myself. And when you show up with that frame of mind, you're much more enjoyable to be around. So I went out there and I had fun. I smiled and I laughed a lot because I truly was enjoying myself. I talked about my passions and the things I was interested in, and a lot of people felt a connection with me. They felt a lot of sparks. And it was mostly just because I was being myself. I was sharing who I truly was. I wasn't holding so much back anymore like I was when I was younger. I just put it all out there. And a lot of people found that interesting. So in addition to sharing what I was passionate about, I also shared some of what I had been struggling with. And again, this is not the kind of thing where you're just dumping everything on a first date. Don't do that. But when the conversation naturally flowed to something more serious or to something deeper, I was willing to go there, as much as I felt comfortable with at the time for the amount of time that I had known this person. So I did share a bit about some of the struggles I had been through, and I didn't shy away when my dating partner brought up some of their own. So again, not all at once in the beginning. If someone is just dumping stuff on you in the beginning, that's a bit of a red flag. But if someone is just naturally bringing up some of the things that they've went through, I allowed the conversation to go there and shared some of my own stuff. And that's also what creates some of that feeling of connection, some of that feeling of chemistry, of feeling like somebody, again, like I talked about in the beginning, like they get you. So allowing yourself to go deeper in a conversation when you're dating, it allows this person to feel connected to you. And that generates some chemistry, and it also generates excitement for this person to see you again, to want to get to know you more because they feel connected to you. So those are the main things that I did differently when I was older and I had a lot more success with dating. And really, the most important thing was to do the healing work. That was the game changer for me. Again, it just opened me way up, and people find that openness very appealing, very attractive. So if you do nothing else to shift this, I would say focus on your healing. See if there's anything that you can release or that you can work through that will help you to be more open and more engaging with the people that you're talking to. Now, could you be choosing wrong? Possibly, yes, possibly. If you don't know what red flags are, or you don't know how to spot the signs of emotional unavailability, that definitely could be what's going on. But what you described in your post, you actually said you've been really working hard on that. And so I suspect that there's something else going on. And I do suspect that it might be what I talked about here, that perhaps there are some things that you can shift to help you to be a little bit more open and a little bit more engaging or sparky with the people that you're talking to. So I would try to shift some of these things and see what happens. There also could be that element of when you're sleeping with someone. And so you didn't mention in your post here if you're doing that very early on. I don't know, but that if you're sleeping with men right away, like on a first or second date, that could account for some of that drop off, for some of that lack of interest. Sometimes that happens. My general rule is if you wait to sleep with someone until you're in a committed relationship, until you're boyfriend, girlfriend, that will decrease the chances that people are going to drop off. Because if they're not interested in a real relationship, they're going to drop off much more quickly, and so you're going to weed them out. So that could be happening as well. You can still do all the right things and someone can still just lose interest. That does happen too. So keep that in mind. All of these things, all of this advice that I've shared might not necessarily be relevant for you. But either way, my recommendation is to do some of these things that I talked about, make some of these shifts and see what happens. If you're interested in doing some of that healing work, I'm here. Or for anyone else that resonates with this post or what I'm sharing, if you're ready to do that healing work, send me a message. We'll work together. If any of my advice, if any of this is not resonating with you, then just disregard it. Like if you feel like when you're going out on dates, you're showing up, you're fully open, you're really engaging, and you're really being kind of sparky, we could say, and it's still happening to you, then just, again, disregard this. And this goes for any type of advice that I'm sharing. If it doesn't resonate with you, don't follow it, throw it out. Just take what resonates with you, leave everything else. Because it may very well be that you're just having some bad luck when it comes to dating. Like maybe you've just had the misfortune of meeting a string of men who just maybe show up looking available, but they end up not being available, or it's just not the right connection. Maybe there's something that they were looking for that you didn't have through no fault of your own. That's just how dating works. Same for you. You're gonna meet lots of guys who it's just not the right fit. So that could be happening too. You'll know what may or may not be happening by your response to what I've shared here. Like if you're listening to this video and you're thinking, oh, yeah, you know what? That could be happening. It could be that maybe I'm a little bit flat, or maybe I'm a little bit shut down, or I'm holding myself back when it comes to dating. Pay attention to that. You could also be having the response of like, no, I'm very open when I show up on these dates. It's not that. Pay attention to that too. So if you want to learn some tips for how to be more emotionally available yourself, check out this video here and click here to subscribe. I come out with new videos every single week for breaking the cycle of bad relationships and finding real love. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Living Free Finding Love. I share a lot. I post pretty much almost every day. So follow me over there.